Okay, good evening. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals of Town of Darien. Just a few ground rules before we get started. We ask that if you're not speaking on an application or presenting, that you mute your microphone. Everyone will be given a chance to speak, whether they be an applicant, a member of the public, or a board member. Generally, the way we're going to operate is we'll have the applicant present their application. Board members will ask their questions. We'll then open it up to any public questions. The applicant can make responses. Because everyone's name is there, it's not necessary to introduce yourself for the record. At the end of the meeting, we will be deliberating. During that portion of the meeting, there is no public comment. So it's just the board members who can speak during that portion, and obviously staff. Seeing Bill joined us, welcome. And welcome Gary and Bill, by the way. I think this is the first, Bill, is this your first meeting? Okay, all right. I've been negligent in my duties as chair. And Gary, I understand you were on the last meeting as well. So good to see you. Good to have you back. And without any further ado, let's get started. Our first application is David Butterworth and Carol McNamara, calendar number 4/2021, for property located at 158 Holmes Avenue. If you are here on that application, please go ahead and start.
Thanks very much. Yes, I'll keep it very short. I don't have a presentation. Bottom line is we have a one-car garage in the back corner of our property, and there's a hole on one side of the roof. And for safety purposes, we'd like to fix that hole, which is going to involve basically removing that part of the roof, perhaps the whole roof, but at least the I guess the west side of the roof, and replacing it. And we're asking for a variance because one corner of our garage is 11 inches too close to the property line. Aside from that, we're not aware of any other issues, and the garage itself is in otherwise good condition. I know a hole in the roof doesn't sound great, but that's all we're looking to do. So short and sweet, that's all I have to say. I'm going to leave it there and happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Okay, great. Did you look at moving the garage that 11 inches? Is it on? Does it have a foundation?
It is on a pad. I don't know if you would call it a foundation, but it's on a cement pad. And to answer your question about moving it, we haven't, frankly, because it's, from the people we've had take a look at it, from my own eyes, it looks very solid otherwise. And, so we wanted to fix it as quickly as possible because the hole is growing larger and is a safety issue for particularly our kids if they're going to be going in and out of it, which we're starting to restrict.
In this type of situation, one of the things that we're guided by, as you may know, perhaps from your discussions with town staff, is the location of the garage is slightly non-conforming. We have to acknowledge that. And the garage, according to the town assessor, the garage has an appraised value of roughly over $7,000. And it's our understanding that the contractor's estimate is closer to $10,000. Frankly, seems like a lot to repair the roof. First of all, to your knowledge, are those two numbers accurate?
In terms of the estimate of the cost to repair, that is what we were told, yes. In terms of the assessed value, that's the town's decision. I don't know how they reach it. Frankly, it seems a little bit low to me. This just seemed like the most reasonable aside from the 11-inch differential between the zoning regulations and the actual location of the garage, this seemed like the most reasonable approach. And again, we're driven by safety reasons here, but I don't know how the town reaches its.
Yeah, I mean, I am neither a contractor nor an assessor, but if the hole in the roof costs $9,000 to repair, almost $10,000 to repair, it's hard for me to understand why the entire structure is valued at, that's quite a hole in the roof if you look at the picture. Value the structure at less than the repair. Are you honestly not going to take down the walls and replace the walls?
That's our intent. If you walk into the
more than intent.
that's our sincere plan.
Have you had any construction engineer or anyone else, the contractor, look at the integrity of the walls? Which,
Yes.
not with respect, I know you didn't. I know you just bought the property, but it looks like this structure has not been maintained for a very long time. I don't know what you're intending to use it for. I'm not sure a car can even fit in it of today's kind of size. But if there's a suggestion that you're even going to, if there's a possibility that you're taking down the structure, then we're almost required, if not just by the regulations, to have you move it into a conforming location. I know that seems draconian for 11 inches, but we're bound by regulation.
Sure, that's totally fair and all fair questions. Frankly, we don't plan on using it as a garage for a car. We plan on using it for storage. We have had several people come in and say that most of the garages does seem, from their, looking at it, touching it, their experience, it seems solid, and so that the repairs would not require taking down any of the walls. So, just like you not being an assessor or a contractor, I'm not either. I can only go by my best judgment, and it seems, reasonable that we're not going to have to take down any walls. I guess, yeah, it's possible, but I really don't see it. I don't know what happened to the garage. Yes, we bought it site, as is, but this is just the approach we've decided to take.
Is that a concrete floor there, or is it a dirt and gravel floor?
Concrete.
It's just hard to tell by the photos.
Understood. Yeah.
Yeah, Gary, if I read the proposed work to be done, it's remove rotten siding, plywood, and framing from garage wall, install new framing to garage wall. So it sounds like this is just being rebuilt.
I mean, if you came into the garage, yeah, I understand why that wording sounds that way, but you're welcome to come and look at the garage. If you come into the garage, again, this is my, non-professional judgment, but I think a pretty good judgment that you would come in and come away and say, okay, I understand that this seems very solid, and I understand why he thinks he can go with this approach. And you'd understand why I'm applying for the variance. I understand sitting there and reading the papers and looking at not great pictures and having to act within the bounds of the Darien zoning regulations. I get your questions, but we just think that this can be done with a repair.
And David, could you just confirm for me, I believe from the application that's clear, that you're not expanding the size of this at all. You're merely making repairs to the existing structure, and there's no expansion whatsoever, correct?
Absolutely correct.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And I will say that, if this variance gets approved and we go ahead and make these, and we will go ahead and make the repairs, and if all of a sudden something goes, haywire, and we have to take down a wall or more, we're more than willing to come back to the town and say, hey, obviously we've got a bigger problem here, but we truly don't think this is more than we're saying it is, or we're assessing it is.
So I assume your neighbors were notified. I assume that the neighbor, if you're facing your house to your right, I'm blanking on their last name, Nick. I assume he has a
Lena?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I assume they're okay with it. They're the most affected neighbor.
I don't have anything in writing from them, but I've spoken with them about it directly, and they're totally fine with it.
Yeah.
So David, is it right to assume that the current structure is non-conforming, or is it conforming?
My understanding is it's non-conforming because it's 11 inches too close to one corner of the garage is 11 inches too close to our neighbor's property line.
Right.
What I don't understand, what I can't figure out is where the permit is for this and when it was built, and if there was a regulation in place at the time that allowed it to be built that would otherwise allow it to be grandfathered. That's a question that nobody has been able to answer for us. So
I mean, your house was built in the 30s. The front portion of your house was built in the 30s. The garage might have been built at the same time, right?
Well, the first time it shows up on the tax assessor's records is 1977.
Wow.
And there's no record of a permit. It doesn't seem to me to be a 100-year-old garage, but it also doesn't seem to me to be a 55-year-old garage.
Well, Richard Jones would know. He owned both.
Yeah.
So by making these changes, you will keep the variance as is. It would not increase or decrease.
You mean you don't mean the variance, you mean the non-conformity.
Right. Yeah. We would, as far as I'm concerned, it would be the exact same. The only thing we're doing is repairing the roof.
If we were to grant this, David, would you agree to a stipulation that if the walls come down, you will move the structure into a conforming location?
Absolutely.
Okay. Bill, any questions? No. Okay. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to be heard on this application? Okay. Woody, do you have anything further? Take that as a no, Woody. Kevin, anything further from you?
No, I'm good. Thank you, Mike.
Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and close this hearing. Deliberations to take place later in the evening. Next application is 5-2021. Matthew and Carrie Masson, 8 Clocks Lane. If you're here on that application, please unmute and let us know what's going on.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm going to just share my screen. Got a little presentation. Try to be relatively short and sweet. What I think is a short and sweet sort of situation, hopefully. We're trying to install a ductless air conditioning system in our house. There's a heat pump unit that needs to be on the exterior of the home. There's a picture of it here on the first slide and the dimensions of it. The property that we have is a non-conforming property. We pretty much don't have a lot of space on any side of our property, and particularly on the side where the heat pump will go, we're going to be about 2.1 feet from the property line, but the existing property is actually 1.7 feet from the side property line. So we're requesting a variance. That's the most significant of the distances in terms of lot lines, but we also are requesting a variance for the front and the rear lot lines as well, just based upon how small the property is.
Sorry, explain that.
So it's probably easier to look at the survey. So this is the property. where the unit will go right here. This is the side lot line here. So the unit will be 2.1 feet away from the side lot line. And then, you know, this is the street here. This is Clocks Lane. And then, you know, the rear of the property, I can't actually see it on my own screen, is to the right. So, the property itself, the distance, the existing structure is 23.3 feet from the front lot line, 26.7 from the center of Clocks Lane, and then 6.7, I think, from the rear. All the dimensions are here. So these are what I tried to outline here in the blue is the existing structure. So like I said, 23.3 from the front, 26.7 from the center line, and 6.9 from the rear, and then the side is already 1.7. So the proposed heat pump is going to be within the realms of the existing non-conforming structure, I guess, or non-conforming property.
Okay, and is there a conforming location on the site where this will be located?
There is not a conforming location. So, I mean, the only areas where we would have space, this here is like a front yard basically, or, you know, just grass, and there's a, you know, walkway here. So to put the unit on this side, you know, there's only one bedroom on this side of the house. So to connect to that unit, you have to run a lot more piping over to that side, and then this side is a driveway.
Okay.
The location that, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I have some notes here from staff that there was a previous location, looks like maybe in the backyard. Is that a previous site? Or?
And initially we thought that could be a potential location, but after having a few HVAC technicians out and getting some insights from them, there are a couple things that prevent it from being on the rear of the property. First of all, there's an oil tank right here where my cursor is, and so, you know, it would need to be some distance from that. Also, in terms of where the units are going to go on the interior of the house, 2 out of the 4 units will be on the side of the property. So in terms of running, you know, tubing on the exterior of the house, in terms of limiting the amount of that, putting it on that side lot line makes the most sense.
Okay.
So can I ask a naive question?
Sure.
What does this equipment do? Is it a heat condenser? What does that mean? What is it? What is the function of it?
It's a condenser that I'm not an HVAC technician myself, but I guess, yeah.
It's a split system. You've got a very quiet fan that runs in there. That's a condenser. You have to run tubing up. There's tubing that goes up to the split that's mounted on the inside wall of the house, and then there's a tube that comes down to drain the water. These are used a lot in homes and condos that don't have walls where you can run ductwork to retrofit a central air into a house. They're very quiet, very efficient. They're both heat pumps and air conditioning.
So is this one meant just for heat, or is it heat and air conditioning?
It's heat and air conditioning. Yeah, I mean, I think all of these are set up for heat and air conditioning. We're going to use it almost primarily for air conditioning, just because at this point we're only able to put window units, you know, into the windows. We can't install central air just based on the size of the existing structure, and there's no duct, you know, no space for ductwork. So this is the only alternative.
It's a unit that will serve to replace window-mounted air conditioners?
That's correct.
So just because I have to ask, I'm looking at the survey prepared by staff with the indication of the building lot. I think that's shaded in red, and obviously there's a lot of non-conforming house structure here, but there is a conforming location over the brick walkway. Just for the record, can you tell us how you evaluated that location and why you rejected it?
I mean, the walkway is a pathway to the patio, and then also, like I said, two of the interior units. So there's a bedroom here where my cursor is, and there's a bedroom here, and then this on the second, or bedroom here on the first floor, bedroom here on the second floor, and then this is like the living space. So two of the units will be on this wall, and there won't be any units on this wall. So to have to run the exterior piping around to that brick walkway, it would increase the amount of piping that needs to go out beyond the exterior of the house.
Yeah, frankly, I know these systems. It's more than that. It kills the efficiency of them by
yeah,
running the conduit.
exactly. So yeah, I mean,
okay, you answered my question.
The goal is, yeah. All right, sorry.
Thank you. I just needed for the record to see if you evaluated conforming locations.
Yep.
Dan or Bill, any questions? Okay. Dan? No? Okay. Anyone from the
Chairman?
Yes.
Excuse me. Mr. Chairman, if I can, for a moment, the plan you see in your staff questions report is actually a half setback space that's colored. In other words, that's the least non-conforming segment of the property. It's not conforming. It's the least non-conforming by taking, for instance, a 25-foot side setback and reducing it to 12.5 and the 40 rear to 20. When you draw those lines, it kind of gives you an indication of what an overlapping setback circumstance creates. And it's a little bit of advice on where maybe would be the preferable, most conforming, least non, okay? Hopefully that explains what that pink area is.
So Woody, what you're saying is because of the overlapping setbacks, there's really no conforming location on this property.
Correct. There's a negative buildable area.
Right.
That's
Right.
one way to put it. Very unusual, but it's happened to us.
We've had that before.
Okay.
Okay. Woody, that's thank you for that. I misunderstood the sketch.
Is there anyone from the public that wishes to be heard on this application? Seeing no one, and Woody, thank you for that explanation. That makes a lot more sense. So there is no conforming location on this lot. This is just if you divided the setback spaces in half, that's what you'd end up with as a potential conforming. But that's interesting. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the hearing. Thank you very much for your time this evening. Calendar number 6, 2021. Michael and Lindsay Sutter at 6 Phillips Lane. Do we have someone here on this application?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
There you go. Yep, we got you.
Okay, great. Let me share my screen here. All right, can you see the presentation?
No.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay, great. Our proposed project at 6 Phillips Lane is a bit more in depth, and there's essentially two requests embedded within it. The first of which is seeking an interpretation, as we outlined in our application under section 372, where there's a pronounced uniformity of alignment within 150 feet of the property. And the second kind of prong of our request is section 406, the front setback request that would, as we have in our documents, the porticos are front entryways for this. So essentially, we live in a Cape-style home on 6 Phillips Lane, and we're seeking to go straight up and change it to more of a colonial-style home. But because the home was built at a particular point in time, it's a non-conforming dwelling, as are the units adjacent to ours on the street. The whole street is in violation of those units. So taking the house up a floor, increasing the height, increasing the perimeter just slightly, as noted here on the page, 32 square feet of the mudroom, and you'll see that in the survey, which outlines where the work is to be done. We anticipate redoing the kitchen as well as part of this project and adding the front entryways, which require a variance to our understanding. And so described in our application, we've also cited 2 homes that are on our street that came before this board, received an interpretation under 372, agreeing that there is a uniformity of dwellings along the home, that going straight up did not require a variance. Instead, it was covered by the town zoning and regulations. And separately, another home on Phillips Lane, within a couple hundred feet of ours, was granted a Section 406 variance for a front entryway due to the non-conforming nature of the unit. And I believe this board has received some letters of support, or at least the town staff has, for this application. So that's what our project entails at a high level summary. And just to show the board here on this slide, you can see the uniformity of the dwellings on Phillips Lane. All 14 homes on the eastern side of Phillips Lane, or on the eastern side of homes, have that front alignment in violation and are non-conforming units. And you'll see in the red call-outs here, 13 Phillips Lane sought a variance and was approved for a front entryway on November 15th, 2017. And more recently, 8 Phillips Lane sought an interpretation under 372, for which this board also approved that interpretation with a uniformity of alignment. And just to further illustrate that alignment, this graphic here on your screen shows the distance either side of 6 Phillips Lane, the uniformity, and also the calendar item, the section noting 372 as well.
All right, could you go back to the previous picture and point out which is your property, and then let us see the others?
Our property is the one with the red dot here, 6 Phillips Lane. And this is the one last year that received the interpretation agreement, for lack of a better term. And then 13 here, sorry, go ahead.
To be clear, your next door neighbor had the application that resulted in our determination of uniformity. And in fact, it was done so with your house in mind, right? You were part of the uniformity analysis of 8 Phillips Lane because it's your next door neighbor.
Correct, as were all our neighbors.
Right. So you're part of that. Your house is part of that. It's almost part of that decision.
That's correct. But in speaking with the town staff, we were told we'd have to come before this board.
Yeah, Woody, what does that regulation say? Does someone have a copy of that regulation that we can take a look at? Because I'm confused.
I mean, I can read it out loud to you, Mike. I mean, the pertinent.
It's right here on the page for you.
Yeah, that's
highlighted.
Highlighted the pertinent language, which the basic premises is if on one side of the street within 150 feet of any specific lot, there's a pronounced uniformity of setback that's less than is required, then the house permit to build can be granted that is also less than the appropriate setback.
So, I mean, this is, I guess, this is more of a procedural question. Mr. Sutter, hopefully you can bear with us for a moment, but I'm not sure why this is in front of us. Why are we making that determination? I mean, it either exists or it doesn't exist.
No, I think a couple of years ago when 8 Phillips Lane was presented to us, I hadn't seen an application like that before, and frankly, it wasn't. It might have applied to other things that we've done, and we were tasked to determine whether there is a uniformity, and evidence was presented, much like what Mr. Sutter is presenting here, showing the uniformity, showing where the houses all lined up. So I think it is within our jurisdiction to look at the location of the homes and determine whether Section 372 applies. Now, one could argue, since we determined that this neighborhood has a uniformity that is inconsistent with the setback rules previously, using 6 and 8, as an example, maybe this could have been done administratively, but I do think, Mike, it's within our jurisdiction to interpret the facts of the situation, how the houses are aligned with the regulation. I don't know, Kevin, I don't know if you disagree.
And if you look at the provision in the zoning code about our interpretation powers, it does specifically say that we may decide any question involving the interpretation of any of these regulations, including the determination of the exact location of any zone boundary line, if uncertainty remains. So, I mean, the only outstanding question I have is whether, ideally, the way it's supposed to work is someone in the town is supposed to make a determination. And then if someone disagrees with that, then they come to us as they appeal, correct? Because we're the zoning board of appeals. Now, I don't, you don't want to make a mountain out of molehill if someone didn't make a determination versus them telling them just to come to us. But yeah, I think it's probably within our powers of interpretation to make an assessment about where the appropriate boundary line is here for this front yard setback.
Yeah, if I may, I think I made the same points with the number 8 Phillips Lane project a year or so ago. As staff, we have looked at this regulation as more applicable to like a row of Cape homes that were all built literally 15, 20 feet apart in an exact line, or a row house situation. Circumstances where the commission, when they made this allowance, said throwing off that clear and obvious rhythm would be goofy, for a non-scientific word. What's different here is these homes are relatively far apart compared to a row of capes or other buildings. Therefore, I can say I didn't see this as a normal case of uniformity of alignment. So this was
that's what, so Woody, I believe that is within our jurisdiction, which I think you're perhaps right when you advise the applicant, in fact, to seek our advice, because the question of what is a pronounced uniformity of alignment, it doesn't say for row houses. It could be for homes that are spaced apart, but does provide kind of line of sight on this road as other roads. So I think this is within our right to interpret, and without going into a deliberative phase, I don't know how we rule differently for 6 than we did for 8, since the analysis had to be intertwined. When we looked at 8, we looked at 6, and now we're faced with 6, and we have to look at 8 and the other houses on the right.
Can I just ask the applicant, I presume you are not moving in you doing this construction, you're just going up. You're not moving the line, the front yard setback at all. It's just keeping it where it is. Is that correct?
That's right. I would caveat one fact you'll see on the survey map in your materials. There is a very small unit. It's not within the front setback. It is a conforming change. There's a small mudroom, 32 square feet. That is the only foundational work that will be done that will touch the perimeter of the home. But that's the only caveat. But you're right, we're going straight up.
Okay. But I think there's also 2 porches that are being added as some additional volume out front.
Correct. And so that was where I was citing 13 Phillips Lane in 2017. And you can see here the front entryway precedent that the board approved for that as well. Same situation, 25 feet in lieu of the 30 feet minimum required front setback. That was approved for the porticos.
And to be clear, your application is 25 feet?
It's 24.8.
Okay.
And what is the size of the porticos being suggested? And is there currently it's just the front door is right on the edge of the house without any screening?
That's correct. It's 5x8 is the proposed portico side for both the mudroom and the front door. There's no, the front door is flush with the house. There's no cover.
Okay.
And we shared with town staff kind of a sample image of what it could look like. A fairly simple structure is being proposed.
Okay. Any other questions from board members?
Last one, Mike. And do you expect that people will regularly come in and out of both the front door and the mudroom door?
I do. The front stairway or the main stairway in the house is essentially leads to the front door. So I think it'll be natural to be using both doors, and we have 3 kids, so it should be used often.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone from the public that wishes to be heard on this application? Okay, Woody, anything further? Okay, we'll go ahead and close this application.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the calendar number 7, 2021, Bruno Campos, 23 Hollow Tree Ridge Road.
Hi, good evening. Let me share my screen here. All right, can you see the screen? The PowerPoint presentation?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Let me start. Okay, so my proposal is to resolve functionality and safety issues that present a hardship. I'm here to respectfully request a variance to extend the first floor front entrance by 2 feet 9 inches, which is approximately 2 feet into the 30-foot front yard setback. You'll see the pictures there of what it currently looks like on the left. It's flat, and on the right, the proposed modification extension. In this outline, I'm going to discuss the topography, the uniqueness of the lot. I'm going to show you some neighbor writings in support who volunteered their support. I didn't solicit their support. Then I'm going to show you some pictures showing the daily interference functionality and safety risk issues that I'm concerned about. And I also will respond to staff posted comments and questions that I saw on your website last night. So this is the lot, my lot. You'll see that it's unique and it's an elongated triangle. The home is wedged in between the setbacks. This is the view of my home from directly across the street. You can see that it's a very steep decline, the property. It goes down at, I mean, I haven't measured it exactly, but from the picture, you'll see that it looks to be about 45-degree angle for the entirety of the lot. So the front floor entrance that I'm discussing is very hard to see from the street. There's the side view of the house, as you can see, very steep. And then the right picture there is the backyard that goes straight down the hill into, at the top corner there up here. That's the neighbor behind me. That's their home. This is a letter in support after I sent out the notices of our variance request. Nancy Grune, Steve Grune, who live behind me, they were kind enough to write this letter. Thank you for your legal notice and variance request information. It looks like a great project to us with improved aesthetic and functionality. Being a rear lot on Hillside, we know what it's like to live on an odd lot of land with restrictions and special considerations. We also know how hard it is to live through home improvement projects. We wish you all the best, construction, getting the variance approved so you can proceed as you want. We think it's going to look beautiful, et cetera. Just a very supportive note we received. Here's a letter from the neighbor who lives directly in front of us, who would, I think, have the biggest argument to object from his view, but he was kind enough to send me back the letter. Just tucked it back into my mailbox with a little note there that I blew up here with his writing. Good luck with the project. No issues from me, Jim. So this is the part 3 of the presentation, the daily interferences and safety risks that I'd like to discuss as my concern. As you can see, the closet door here and the front door here, they're very close together. And when you open them, the far right picture, if you can see that, if it's not hidden behind all of our images, the locks can actually latch into each other and create an effective wall. This now an adult can manage this, but on a daily level, people are getting hit here frequently. This creates traffic problems, and the risk that bothers me is that it also creates a potential wall to leaving the house. If let's say there was a fire in the house, if you had people that were impaired from smoke inhalation, if you have small children and that are trying to leave, this can cost precious time, and this is something that I really want to eliminate. So these are responses to the ZBA staff comments and questions that I saw on your site. How about just switching the closet door to a different wall? And specifically, the staff member suggested moving the closet door to the wall facing the stairwell. So this wall here, over here is where the foyer is, the entrance you leave here through the house. And this is the wall facing the stairs. Now, because the foyer is so restricted and you got that radius of the door swing here, this entire area is not very usable in terms of taking off your shoes, putting in your shoes, because you're at risk of getting hit by doors throughout the day. You know, we have a family of 4. The house is built for up to a family of 6. So it creates a traffic problem here. So putting a door here, we're forced now to use the stairs to put on and take off our shoes. Putting a door here, 2 foot, there's a 2 feet right here, the standard door. Now I would have to, somebody would have to stand here to open the closet. So that takes out this. Now you're pushing up people up the stairs to put and take off shoes. And if you sit an adult here, then the door is going to be cracking their toes, etc. And it restricts this is the most trafficked hub of the home. It's up and down the stairs, getting in and out of the house, going to the living room. The living room is right here. You can't see it, but it's where I'm standing taking the picture. So putting a door here, I mean, I won't do that. I'd rather not change it if that's the case, because I think this actually, although it might eliminate the fire risk that I was discussing, this creates a whole nother traffic risk that is dangerous. Plus a door open right here, a door has edges. I don't want my children coming down here with a potential swinging closet door where they're, you know, can hit the door, hit their face, etc.
Yeah, I actually think that I don't think you're allowed to put a door there. I don't think code allows you to put a door there.
Ah, okay. Well, that makes sense to me.
You wouldn't be able to get, firemen wouldn't be able to get access to those stairs if the door was open. You need a 3-foot wide clearing in front of there. You couldn't maneuver you know, if God forbid someone needs a stretcher, you couldn't maneuver it. Like, no.
Right. Yeah.
Not
So,
a
well,
great...
I'm happy to hear that. That was my instinct, but that's good confirmation. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So I think, well, I'm not going to read all of that because I just spoken a lot of it. But the writing in purple at the bottom there, I think the solution that we've been looking at this from various points of view, and frankly, this is an expensive solution, but I think to me, it is the only solution that resolves the concerns that I have, these functionality and safety issues, is to extend that entry wall as proposed to allow for more space in the foyer area and create a sliding closet door. Because right now, the closet is so small that I can't insert a sliding door on either side, on that wall or the other one. The second comment from the staff was the house appears to have a comfortable kitchen, dining, living room spaces. The claimed difficulties that the first closet, the front closet and front doors are too close together. This probably has been the case since the house was built in 1967. So responding to the comment there that I highlighted in red, there's no question that the rest of the home is comfortable. We love the home. Really, the only issue is in that traffic zone of leaving in and out of the house. Now, responding to the second part of that comment highlighted in red, this has probably been the case since the house was built in 1967. So, Mr. Woodside, my contractor who's here next to me, Marcin, Woody was very generous with Marcin and spent a good 30 minutes going over our application, pointing out things that we should think about, raising issues. And one of his pushbacks was this comment, that has probably been around since 1967, suggesting that because prior owners lived with this circumstance for decades, there isn't likely an issue here, or presumably they would have sought a variance request or formally complained to the board. And I would like to say respectfully, if I may, that the framing of the issue in this way, I think, is unfounded because it engages in the well-recognized logical fallacy of the absence of evidence. In other words, the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. For example, if the sun goes down at night, you can't see it. That does not mean that it ceases to exist. So the absence of evidence doesn't prove anything. And further, it engages in a lot of speculation as to what previous owners may have done or not done, or why they didn't do or did what they did. They're not here to give us their experience. I wrote down, just this morning, I wrote down at least 5 different reasons why they might have not tried to change this. One, they didn't have the resources to allocate to this particular problem because, as I mentioned, it's expensive to fix. They might have realized that the variance was there, the variance issue was there. They might have thought it's insurmountable. They might have not wanted to seek out legal help. They didn't know maybe that there was a variance issue that could resolve this. Maybe they had no vision for the solution of extending the front. I didn't until I talked to my builder. This is not my trade, to fix these types of problems. I just knew that it was a problem, but I really didn't know how to talk to fix it until recently. And or, for example, they had a stoic attitude. They live in a beautiful town, wonderful people here, and they thought, well, we'll just live with this problem, but that doesn't eliminate the problem. So all of that is speculation, which is why I'd like to push back on that comment about taking into consideration what we think may have or may not have happened in the past. I'd also like to add the fire hazard risk. That statement about what's happened since 1967. It doesn't address the fire hazard risk at all, because unless there was a fire in this house since 67, and there were people in the house, they weren't on vacation, and they had to deal with trying to exit the house and deal with that traffic issue, there's no data for us to determine, for us to shoot down that risk out of hand. And even if, let's say it was a 50% risk of harm to people getting caught here or stuck here or losing some time trying to exit the house because of those doors issues, if there was only one fire where there were people present and they all got out safely, then that wouldn't shoot down the issue. If there was 50%, you would need at least 2 fires to test the risk.
Right.
So anyway.
Mr. Campos, no, I think we understand the issue. Is there anyone from the board that has any questions?
Yeah, the question. So you had up on the screen before a picture of what it will look like when it's completed, if we grant it. And so what I'm trying to understand is in your proposed design, this over here, the overhang, right now your door is flush against the house. Will that overhang provide any cover for people coming in and out of the house, or is that going to be also flush up against the door?
Okay, so maybe I'm going to answer this question. So there's a little bit of overhang, as you see. We try to match the existing overhang of the existing roof on the house, which is about 8 inches, and that's about it.
Right, but my question is, does that 8 inches extend out beyond the door so that someone coming in or out of the house will have, even if it's just 8 inches, a little bit of cover for stepping in or out?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Yes.
Thank you.
And sir, can you just read your name into the record? I'm sorry.
My name is Marcin.
Marcin. And your last name, Marcin?
Pyda, P-Y-D-A.
I'm sorry, I'm getting feedback.
P-Y-D-A, Pyda.
Okay.
I guess rather than being subtle about it, I mean, I guess I asked the direct question. The configuration of the house now, if there were a snow and ice fall and you stepped right out of the front door, there would be no protection from that. Is that correct?
Well, that's correct. So obviously, there's, like I said, there's just an overhang 8 inches beyond the door. So that's all there is. So
does this proposal, in particular the overhang over the door, do you think provides some safety from snow and or ice issues coming in or out of the house?
partially, yes. Because that little overhang, obviously, it protects a little bit of this first, the step that you have, at the bottom of the door.
Thank you.
Yes.
Although, Kevin, I think to your point, the reason why we've allowed covered porches 8 by 5 is actually to provide significant protection, even though it goes out, the covered porch goes out to the setback. It seems like we're not achieving that here.
Well, if that's the case, obviously, we welcome to bring even more overhang if it needs to be to cover the first step completely, which is going to be around like 12 inches, because first step is around 12, maybe 14 inches, which is existing part of the landing. So we're not going with that proposed plan over existing part of the landing. So as you see on the picture, it shows the step, but actually it's actually 12 to 14 inches of the existing landing that is remain.
I wasn't suggesting increase non-conformity, but thank you.
Marcin, can you mute your other device that's connected?
Yes.
You can use this one.
Oh. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect. Okay, we're just hearing you twice, causing a little bit of a feedback loop for me. I think what I understood, Gary, your question was, is there significant protection from the elements to consider this a safety issue? I think they've raised 2 safety issues. One is access by EMS or fire to get in and out of the house, potential log jam at the main entrance and exit. And I think they are providing some overhang. Is it ideal? It's what they've asked for, and so it's providing some safety from the elements for people who are arriving or leaving the property. Dan or Bill, any questions from you guys? Bill's fine. Dan, are you okay? Okay. Woody, any questions from you? No?
No, thank you. Nothing further.
Is there anyone from the public that wishes to be heard on this application?
So, the only thing that I want to say is that the main idea about this proposed plan to Mr. Campos was that I come up with this idea, to find a solution for these two doors actually to be checked all the time, because being as a builder, I always on the side to find a solution to improve the living for the people and community. So that was my idea, and I think can work. And from the safety perspective, I think that's the best solution as I see being in business.
Okay. Is there anyone in the public that wishes to be heard on this application? Okay. Seeing no one, we'll go ahead and close the application. Thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Woody, procedurally, I have a 30 Outlook. Is that part of other business?
Yes, 3 Outlook is a request for a significant change to plans, which I'll explain in other business. Yes.
Okay. All right. So that concludes our public hearings. We'll move on to deliberations and possibly decisions. The first application, sorry, bear with me for a second. Butterworth, McNamara, 158 Holmes Avenue. This is the garage that's in disrepair. That 50% rule, and Kevin, I'm sort of talking to you because you've got the rules and you're really good with them. That 50% rule does have an exception for safety. Is that correct?
Well, I wouldn't say the 50% rule does. My view is the appraised value is what the appraised value is, whether we agree with it or not. And it seems like the work here is certainly going to be in excess of 50%. What that means is they can't do the work without coming to get a variance. But there is an exception to having to find a hardship and the minimum adjustment necessary and all the rest to the variance rules when we find there's some safety concern. So my view is the 50% rule applies here, and there is no exemption for that for safety, but we can find an exception to the strict variance rules if we find there is a safety concern here and this is being done to address the safety concern.
Okay. Well, I do think that there's a safety issue here. I had a house on Old Stone Road that had a similarly situated garage with a hole in the roof, and those things continue to get worse and worse over time. Debris falls, weather gets in there, snow accumulates. It just makes a real mess out of the entirety of the garage. It starts to rot from the inside out instead of the outside in. So I'm convinced that there is a safety issue here, and I think the only issue I have is if they, it was hard for me with their builder's notes and the estimate. It really sounds like they're reconstructing a lot of this, and so Woody, I don't know how we draft the stipulation for this, but because there is going to be some framing work. It's in the builder's proposal. There is going to be some walls that the sheathing is removed from, so that is a completely removed wall. And then it's going to be it's going to new plywood's going to be applied, and new siding's going to go on. So it almost sounds like at least one of the walls is going to get sort of completely rebuilt. I think, Gary, it was your concern that, if this is this substantial a project, why don't they just knock it down, start over, and build it in a conforming location? And I guess I'm curious how we craft a stipulation that addresses that concern without being so draconian that he can't do the project that he's anticipating.
Well, I mean, if the project is limited to the roof and fixing the roof.
But it's not. It's clearly remove rotten siding, plywood, and framing from garage wall. install new framing to garage wall, install new plywood to garage wall, install new siding to garage wall. Now, I don't think it's all the walls. I think it's one wall, but you know, I mean,
Okay, I mean, I'm just thinking, what if we say if the construction goes beyond the roof and one wall, then they have to, then that's a reconstruction that's to move into a conforming location. I'm just,
Woody, from an enforcement perspective, are we creating a nightmare for you?
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
I live for that, Woody.
Yeah, no. Well, that's been my concern since this proposal first came to us. At what point do we know what's going to be preserved? There was not an engineer clarifying that. There was some contractor, I guess, statements or whatever. But when you go and look at it, there does seem to be things that would not meet the building code in the wall. So clearly it's not just a roof repair to meet the building code. So I think if you craft a stipulation that it's okay, provided, what, at least 3 of the walls stay? Does that include the garage door wall? I guess so. The
So
most.
it's an interesting argument though, because the exclusion or the exception is due to safety. If the conditions of the walls are unsafe, can we extend that really to the whole building, to the whole structure?
Yeah. Well, I don't think the building official would declare it unsafe
Okay.
until it got to a point where literally the walls were falling in.
Right.
Yes, a hole in the roof is bad in lots of ways. But in terms of a threat to the public, no, it's somewhat of a threat to the owner and their, resident users. So I don't think it's a public safety hazard.
But to me, it seems like it's an 11-inch issue.
Yeah.
Garage, it's not used by a garage as a garage. And I do think, without looking at it, being in it, and I don't know how the prior owners ever used it, but maybe repair of a roof and minor structural repairs. We face this problem all the time because sometimes projects do go beyond.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And we've denied a few where it actually turned out to be the right call, where they moved it to a conforming location. One of the houses on, what was it, Middlesex or Mansfield? I can't remember, but so we've faced this issue a lot. I think if we have a stipulation that the work doesn't exceed one wall and the roof repair, I don't care what they do as far as painting the thing or shingling the thing, but if it becomes, they have to shore up all the walls structurally because they're not fit, then they need to move this to a conforming location.
Can we stipulate that the variance is granted conditionally? That they submit their more documentation on what walls are being repaired, Mike? Because what you read, can't remember if it's you or Kevin read the description of the work to be done. It's not clear that it's limited to one. Can a variance be conditional based upon the submission of more documentation?
Ooh.
Yeah, we've done that before.
I just gave Woody another heart attack.
Yeah. Well, difficult for us again. It would have been better in the beginning if we had more clarity here, but we didn't get it.
Kevin, what do you think about a conditional variance?
Yeah, I mean, my view is there's clearly a major hole in the roof. In my estimation, it's clearly created a safety issue. I think based on the evidence in the record, including the pictures, there is a wall directly beneath that hole that has deteriorated. And such deterioration is almost certainly caused by the damaged roof and the exposure to the elements from that. And I don't think we want to be in a position where if someone raises a safety issue, that then can become a means to make wholesale changes and repairs to a structure that would take it beyond remediating the issue that's creating the safety issue. But I do think that doesn't mean we should be so restrictive that the only thing that's allowed to be repaired is the very specific location of the safety concern, meaning just past the roof. I'm comfortable with repairs incidental to and close proximity to that damage also being okayed. And so for me, I'm fine with the roof being repaired and the walls that are in close proximity to and have been damaged as caused by the hole in the roof. Said differently, the wall that's directly beneath the hole is fine with me.
I can live with that, Kevin. That's good.
Okay. Do you want to make a motion with that stipulation?
If you don't mind, let me ask something here. The sill plates, the grade around this garage is kind of high. If the sill plates end up needing to be repaired for some reason, are you saying that would not be consistent with an approval? Just the roof and the immediate area that has damage. What I'm concerned about is how far down are we going to go with the allowance for them to rebuild this?
So what are the sill plates?
Now, the very bottom of the walls have essentially members that connect a wall structure to the concrete slab. I'm not sure there's even bolts in this one, but.
I mean, that stuff is so minor that, I mean, my view is I don't really care. I mean, that seems like that's incidental, minor, additional repair work to a structure that's being worked on.
Okay.
I agree. I think the reason why Woody's raising that is that it's close to the foundation. Are we then taking something down to the foundation? Look, I think the intent here is to preserve as much of the structure in its location as possible. They're not going to expand its footprint. I think that should be in the stipulation, right? That there's no increase in size or height.
Is that a motion, Gary?
Was my motion or was it Kevin's motion? Doesn't matter to me.
So I'll make a motion that, having found that there are safety concerns here, that we approve the variance request with the following conditions. One, that the only portions of the structure that are allowed to be repaired in addition to the roof are the wall that is directly beneath the hole that seems to be in disrepair, and ancillary minor repair work like the sills, and stipulate that no expansion of the existing structure be permitted whatsoever.
I'll second that.
All in favor? That's unanimous, Woody. Okay, next application is 5/2021. This is the installation of the HVAC unit. Hardship seems pretty clear, unique nature of the lot. There's actually no conforming location to place the HVAC unit. Woody, I was going to ask you, isn't there some allowance for HVAC units, but that's a coverage allowance, right?
Correct. Yes.
Like you're thinking of, yeah. Okay. So, you know, I think Gary, you understand these systems, and there's a reason why it needs to be in the spot where it is. It's not capricious and arbitrary. It makes sense.
Really needs to be close to they're split systems, and it needs to be close to the segment that's inside your home. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Plus, what you're
does the heat pump have to be on a foundation, or can it just be on a stand?
Yeah, it's on a rack. It's on a rack. They put a pre-made concrete pad, and then it's a rack that raises it a couple of feet.
I mean, and even the pad, like when you say concrete pad, I mean, it just needs to be on some sort of on something that's sturdy on the ground, and they put the rack on it.
Correct. Correct. And I mean, they're really super, super quiet. The only thing is when I installed one in my condo up in New Hampshire, where the condos are close to each other, I was asked to screen it. And I don't know whether that's appropriate here or not. In some ways, it adds more structural feel to it to screen it with lattice or fencing, but it doesn't look of the thing.
I don't think there's any room. There's a fence there already.
Yeah.
I think if you add plantings or more lattice, it's going to make it almost impossible for a contractor to get back in there to service.
Well, that's true. You need clearance. You need a few foot clearance to get in there because there are mechanical things that need to be in there. So look, they're really great. They're great systems. By the way, that piping that goes along the house, it looks like a downspout from your gutter. You really don't want to run your house with that. I know that visual isn't in our rules, but in order to make this system work, it has to be close to the inside split. And they're very, very exceedingly quiet units.
Was there any? I didn't tie the neighbor.
He didn't get it. There's nothing in writing, right?
No, I don't think so. I don't believe so, no.
But the property definitely presents a hardship, right?
Yeah, I think so I'll make a motion to approve. I don't think that there's any stipulations. I think that the finding of hardship is the unique nature of the lot, the overlapping setbacks. There's no conforming location to put this, and I do think it's the minimum adjustment necessary. Do I have a second to that?
I'll second it.
Dan seconds. All in favor? That's unanimous, Woody.
Okay. Okay.
All right. The Sutter application. Oh, okay. So this is okay. All right. This is. Phillips Lane. How do you deny Phillips Lane? We've approved all of his neighbors for the exact same projects.
I agree.
Yeah.
So
I think,
and even beyond that, we approve the other neighbors, I do think the language in the code is not limited just to row houses.
right.
It's if on one side of a street within a given block, it doesn't limit in any types of houses, and within 150 feet of any lot, there's a pronounced uniformity of alignment, which I think in my estimation, there is. Then we're allowed, the town is allowed, put aside with us, to permit the building that is not in strict conformance with the zoning code. And that, in my estimation,
Provided it's conforming with that alignment.
right, correct.
Would be.
Which it is, and we have testimony that it's not being moved at all. It's staying where it is. So I don't have any issue with that building, given the alignment of the house.
So Kevin, I would treat it the same way we did 8, whereas we're not granting a variance, rather we're interpreting this.
Correct.
The fact that this neighborhood meets the standard or meets the requirements of that section.
Correct.
let me ask this question. Does every neighbor have to come back to us with the same stupid application? I mean, we've made this determination now twice.
No, I don't think they should. My view is the town should be able to say that there is a conformity here. We have found it before, and if someone objects to it, they can appeal. That's my view of how it should work, but that's obviously not what happened here, so I think we should reiterate our position.
It's essentially a rezoning of that area, not by us, but by when those houses were built, all in a row.
Let me see. What might be helpful would be maybe we take this application and the prior one, present it to the director and the Planning and Zoning Commission. Do you want to further explain what does pronounced uniformity mean? If there's trees in the way and all that, does that dilute that uniformity? But in other words, clean up the language so we don't have this. It's a relatively new confusion that we didn't have years ago. So this was successfully argued at one house on this property, and it does make sense to allow it for this one. But the bigger picture might be that the commission has to do some work on this, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we're stuck with the regs that we have. So we've made a determination of that this is how these houses should be treated, and all the houses on the street get this treatment. So, you know, when 12 Phillips Lane comes and brings the same application, you know, this should be handled at an administrative level. It doesn't need to. They don't need to make an application to us for that. You know, we've looked at both sides of the street, all the way up and down. I mean, it's in this application. Both sides of the street, from that whole block. I mean, they're literally exactly the same.
Right. So what we're basically saying is there is for that specific block, there's almost like a sub zoning district that has a smaller front yard requirement.
Yep.
And so then but my only follow-up question is, and I'm trying to look for it now, are the two porticos that they want to build, are they within this new front yard setback, or are they, at least one of them looks like extends out beyond that? So I think we have to make a separate variance determination as to at least one of those porticos.
That's correct. So in the determination we've made there in the past is that as long as it's a 5x8 structure that's not enclosed, for safety reasons, as Kevin, you were pointing out in another application, we do happen to get snow, ice, rain in the Northeast, and you know, we've determined that from a safety perspective, having that structure, even though it's non-conforming, even though it's in the setback, is an important safety feature of a house, and so we've allowed that.
Yeah, and let me point out, the legal notice does have the dimensions to both of the porches instead of the 30-foot normal setback. So you could approve those as variances, and I would suggest the normal stipulation of not enclosing it or expanding up and over them.
Yeah, Kevin, here's an interesting question though. As we get to the tail ends of this block, do they still get the same benefit?
Well,
It's gotta be within 150 feet.
Yeah, if it's 150 feet, so go 150 feet, and is there a uniformity there? So
right, but so like you get down to the one that's at the curve.
Yeah, I think that house, probably number 16, would not qualify.
But that's why almost has to come to us for that interpretation, I think.
Yeah, so my example of 12 actually probably doesn't work. Or maybe it does. So, all right, so now Gary, you're making me rethink my expression here. Maybe you're right. Maybe every one of these does have to come for a determination. Because
I don't think it's a difficult application for us to address.
Yeah.
A lot easier than gas stations.
So I guess procedurally, Woody, I think this is how it would go. So an applicant would come in and they'd say, we believe that we have uniformity of whatever, and you say, no, you don't. And then they can appeal that to us.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Instead of an interpretation of the regs, they appeal your decision saying, no, it doesn't conform to this section of the regs. And then I think we're looking at it the right way. So
And
but
we're
you can make a
applying the facts.
determination that-
Right, Mike, then we're applying the facts to the regs.
I like that better. All right, all of that said, I will make a motion to approve. Woody, you were talking and I talked over you, I apologize, but yes, with the standard stipulations for front porch, we have made a determination that there is uniformity for this particular property. The basis of the hardship for the front portico that extends into the setback is a safety issue, which I articulated earlier. Do I have a second?
Second.
Kevin seconds, all in favor?
If I can clarify, I think what you're doing basically is approving the 2 variances for the porches and then approval of the house expansion design based on the interpretation of that 372,
Correct.
correct? So it's 2
No.
separate
No,
It's not a-
one,
It's a determination
determination.
that 372 applies to this
Right, okay.
property.
so one of the porticos then, because 372 applies, one of the porticos is conforming.
That would be my view, that the mudroom one is conforming because we basically set a new front yard setback, and then we only are giving variance for the front door one.
Right.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay. Did we vote?
No, at least I didn't record it.
All in favor? Okay, and we had Kevin as the second. Okay, last application. Bruno Campos. 7/20/21. Okay, so this is another one where the hardship is extremely evident based on the unique nature and topography of this parcel. Some of it being cliff-like. So there is a hardship here. The question is this the minimum adjustment necessary? And I guess I think with the safety issue that they raised, I think that's a real concern. Gary, you're big in post 53. Would you be happy to go into a house where?
No, I'm not. You have to ask my kids.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I don't think an EMT or a firefighter would be too happy with these conflicting doors, and I think
I mean, the truth is carrying equipment. I mean, I know from the equipment they carry might be difficult to get in there. My only point was, I mean, they're really building an extension of the house out front. They're building more interior space, which solves the problem, Mike, that you're focusing on. I just want to make sure we're not conflating our 8.5 portico with new interior space.
No, I think it's a different issue altogether.
Right.
It's a totally different issue. It's a flat design.
I don't feel like 8 inches provides much of any protection from the elements, but that's not a building code requirement. Certainly, it's not the way the house is configured now.
So my view is, I agree there's something unique about the property. I don't think there is a hardship because I don't believe that the door with the closet is truly a hardship, but I do believe there's a safety issue. And it's in part the structure of where the closet door is and how it could block the front door. And it is in part, although it wouldn't be persuasive on its own, that their addition is going to provide, albeit not what we would typically see for a safe entryway, a little extra protection. So while it's not the same as a portico, my view is that that little extra cover taken together with the elimination of the closet door potential hazard for people seeking egress from the house and emergency services getting in, combined leads me to believe that there is enough of a safety concern to warrant approval here.
And implicit in that, though, is that you believe that the proposed plan addresses that in the only way it can, which is to extend over the setback line.
Correct. I don't think moving the closet door is practical, or even if it's legal. And so, yes, I think that that's the only real way. And it seems like the minuscule amount that's going into the setback, it does not offend me in any meaningful way.
I agree. I agree completely.
And it is a minor adjustment. I mean, it is the minimum adjustment. I mean, by definition, I don't think they could have done less.
I think that's true too.
One question about the minimum adjustment. If they're doing this adjustment and they thought that it was the minimum adjustment, should we be explicit with them and let them do a more than 8-inch overhang beyond what they're proposing? Just because they might have not seen clearly on that.
Well, we're stuck with 27.2 in the
Right in the notice
for the dimension.
Okay.
Yeah, and to Gary's point during it, like I don't think we should be in the business of encouraging people to expand their nonconformance when they haven't specifically requested it. I just was pointing it out that it was one of a number of things that would lead me to believe there are safety issues here that are being remedied.
But look, Bill does raise a point. If these guys had been provided that advice, maybe we would have proved something more. But Woody's right too. We can't approve something beyond the legal.
Yeah. Okay. I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Bill, all in favor? Unanimous again, Woody. Set them up and knock them down.
Okay.
Okay, that closes our deliberations. We are moving on to the other business portion of our meeting. Talk to us, Woody, about the Bradshaw at 20 Dubois asking for a 6-month extension.
Yeah, pardon me, that was a mistake. We handled that last month, so we can skip over that one.
Okay. Approval of minutes, February 10th. I think those were circulated and commented on. I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Dan or Kevin? And all in favor?
Yeah, I think that was 4.
It was me, Jeff, Dan, and Kevin. And Barb. April 7th minutes. That was Jeff, Dan, Kevin, Gary, and Bill. So you guys can vote on this one. Someone want to make a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
And seconded. All in favor?
I'm sorry, who made the motion to approve? Was that Gary?
Gary.
Okay, good.
Can I start?
We have another item that has come up. It's complicated. We have to add it to our agenda.
Can I short circuit, Woody?
Sure.
There's no, I read the materials on Outlook. There's no possible way they're providing me with enough information. It's just, oh, we decided that a garage is necessary. I don't know how I'm expected to.
Let me make a motion to add 3 Outlook Drive to our agenda tonight. I need a 2/3 vote to approve that. Do I have a second?
I'm close friends with these guys, so how do I abstain from this part?
You abstain.
You can just say that.
I just abstain.
Gary, if we want to discuss it at all, I need to get it on the agenda.
I'll second it, Michael.
Thank you. Yeah. All in favor? Okay. All right. So go ahead, Gary.
There's not enough in here for me to make it how this could be basically administratively done, Woody, unless I'm missing something. And I just don't think it's right for an applicant to say, oh my gosh, now we want the garage. And what I don't see in the application is And I tried to find it, what was approved, what they're adding to it. It's not clearly shown there.
Yeah,
Well,
correct.
They had counsel for this application. It's not like they did this themselves.
Yeah, they had an architect's assistance, but it wasn't made clear. They were asked to make it clear. But the best I can tell, we approved the project at a second floor on top of an existing structure. And we had a hearing in which commitments were made to keep the foundation, the first floor deck, and even first floor walls. Now they've come back and said, well, we just want to take everything down, not save any of those walls, not save any of the floor, and even modify the foundation to be a couple feet higher, and then build the house on top of that. Plus add a garage. So it is quite a difference from what we reviewed at public hearing previously.
So my view is we have two options here. Ask for additional information or vote no. Given what the previous board did, that I don't think were any of us on it. I guess Dan was on the board then.
Yeah.
I don't see how we possibly could basically reverse that board stipulations. Even if we did have more evidence, but if the board wants, I'm willing to let them have their day in court and explain to us why the situation has changed dramatically, that we should overturn the will of the previous board. But certainly there's no way I'm supporting a yes vote on this. It's either a no or submit more information and come to us with a real presentation.
Well, perhaps just say, let's instruct them to apply, and we have a new public hearing.
Correct.
But Woody, it wasn't stipulated in here that they had to maintain anything.
It actually was in the commitments they made at the hearing on the plans. And the question even came up, their attorney had a structural engineer participate. So we wrote that in the decision letter that they are obligated to, and we wouldn't approve construction plans that didn't save those parts they had committed to. So no, it was not a stipulation, but it was included inherent in their plans and what they said.
So I have a problem with that. I mean, if we're going to require for a project to move forward, if we're going to like we did tonight, if we're going to require that they only repair the roof and one wall, we need a stipulation to that. Like, you can't just say, oh, well, it was part of the record, so they're bound to it. If we don't stick to it, we may not have been important to the board that night. Like, this just says, prior to issuance of a zoning permit, for the project construction, the east property line shall be survey marked, and the patio located within 8 feet of the property line shall be permanently removed in accordance with zoning regulation setback limitations. That was the only thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's hard, Gary, to make your argument that this was all stipulated to when there's no stipulation to that.
Yeah,
well, but we also have the plans. The approved plans are specifically, referred to, let's say. And for us, the staff, what are we going to do if somebody comes in and their final construction plans are significantly different? So either you allow an amendment to the plans to what they submitted tonight, or you just say,
here's going to be my point. I agree with Gary. I don't have enough information in front of me to determine A, what was approved, and B, what the modifications to what was approved are.
And maybe if they showed us that it's not increasing the footprint, it's not in the end, not the height, there's no volume, it's just a usage difference within that box, maybe we'll approve it. They just didn't do a good enough job of submitting that so that we could do it administratively, given, to Kevin's point, the prior decision of the board.
Well, I can clarify that there would be a height increase. What they're basically saying is we would lift the foundation higher, like I think it's 2 feet or so, and the whole resulting volume.
But not sufficient as to require a height variance, which we're not going to get.
Correct.
Here's what, look, they've got 2 options. they can either make a new application for their new project, or they can supply us with a set of plans that shows what was approved with what they're proposing superimposed on it, so we can look at it and see exactly what we're talking about. A written letter, I'm sure they spent a lot of time and effort. Maybe it's just me, but visually, when I look at something and I can say, aha, that makes sense. Okay, they're going up there, they're coming down here. It's a lot easier to understand.
Kevin, do you think the safest way though is to do a new application and not just submit better documentation to handle this in other business? I do.
Yeah, it seems like probably the right approach is deny this, and then they have to submit an application.
Well, we are denying it, right? I mean, there's not enough information here to make I'm in favor of denying it. I shouldn't say that. But so their choice, not ours. I agree with you, Gary. I think the right road, the right path on this is to do a new application,
Right?
And represent their application, because I mean, Dan, you were the only one on there. I don't think we can even recreate that form.
No, I agree. I think we should deny it and let them reapply if they have to.
Yeah, I mean, a different board used their judgment to determine that there was some minimum adjustment, and in the whole context of a presentation decided that there was a hardship and this is what was appropriate. So I don't know how we could conceivably, without a new full application, say, no, we think there is more of an adjustment that's allowed here.
I agree.
Yeah, I think we're all saying the same thing. So what do you?
And it doesn't mean that they won't be successful. They just have to go through the process.
Yeah.
Yeah. And no, I mean, in Woody, my point before was they had an attorney, they had an engineer, I mean, it's not like they did this themselves and said, oops, we screwed up. We're amateurs and we don't really know what we're doing. Like they had a full slate of professionals helping with this. So I would also suggest, if they are going to come back, we try and get Jeff, Barb, and Dan. No offense to everyone else present here, but the people who originally heard it, to try and hear it again, or as many as, I mean, we don't have Dick anymore, we don't have Chuck anymore, so as many of the people who heard it the first time to hear it again would be my suggestion.
Okay, so do you want to take a vote on this request?
Yeah, sure. I'm going to vote to deny it. Do I have a second? Gary seconded. All in favor?
Just the 4 of you, yes, right. Okay.
Bill, no disrespect to your friends.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
I mean,
it's
it's really hard. Bill, this is sort of some of the stuff we talk about. Like it's hard. I don't really want to make these people's lives more difficult. But at the end of the day, it's not fair to A, the board members who put in the time to make this decision, and B, the neighbors who would be completely blindsided. A lot of times when people complain about projects, they say, look, we were told this was going to be built and you actually built this. How did that happen?
You guys reading on it makes total sense to me. One question is, to make lives easier for people in town, I asked Gary a little earlier, I don't know when the appropriate time to ask this question is, but how do we take all of the things like the 8x5 porch and propose to P and make the list that Woody's been compiling for the last couple of years and send the list to P&Z to change the actual laws for, like, say, the 8x5 in the setback portico?
We can talk to I could talk to planning and zoning and see if they'll entertain some reg amendments. I think we've got now a pretty solid list of things that we deal with. So let's see if we can get them to do a little extra work for us.
Yeah, it's happened before.
Yeah,
2 or 3 times in my years anyway, where recommendations have gone to P&Z and they have made changes.
Yeah, so Woody, if you can put that together, that compiled list, you and I can present that to Olveni, and Steve Olveni is the chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission. And maybe we set up a meeting. Kevin, your dog needs your attention. Come on. Maybe we set up a meeting with Steve, Jeremy, you and I, and maybe just hash some of this out.
If I had to, 3 things that I've noticed just from the meetings I've attended. One is this front portico thing, which it just seems like an unambiguous win to improve the zoning rule that way. The second would be from this meeting, those heat pumps, those split unit heat pumps. They're more popular now. They're very inexpensive. They're really nice. And the third would be the mechanics behind the 50% of the assessed value doesn't really seem to align incentives of property owners with things going on in the town. It just doesn't really, when I think it through in a couple different scenarios, I think there's probably ways to tweak it to make more sense.
All right, I may drag you in on that meeting then, Bill.
Okay.
All right, good. Woody, anything else we need to cover tonight?
Nope, we're good.
I'll make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? All in favor? Thank you, gentlemen. Have a good night.
Well,